So what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and open up a brand new QuickBooks online account. Okay, so here's where it gets really exciting, and it's also where we need to make some more assumptions. So number one, the first assumption is that you understand how to go ahead and create what's called a downloadable file for an import into an accounting technology tool. Now, what's important for you to note is that this is pretty much the same process regardless of which tool you use. So it's not only the Intuit accounting tools that allow you to import, there are other bookkeeping programs that allow you to import into their system, and essentially it's the same process. You go into your bank or your credit card account, you look for where it says download activity, and then you create what's called a CSV file. So let's start there. And so let's assume you've already downloaded that CSV file, and it's going to look something like this. So let's go ahead and open that up so that way we all could be on the same page. So it's going to look something like this, and I'm going to just go ahead and make this a little bit bigger for everyone to see. And let me just be perfectly honest with you. It doesn't look pretty. It comes from the bank and usually comes with a few columns here. And usually the columns are some real basic columns. That's one thing about credit cards and bank accounts, even loans and other liability accounts. They're pretty consistent. They'll give you the date. They'll give you the amount of the transaction. They'll give you some detail of where that transaction came from. And so you'll usually have about 3 to 5 columns that come in straight from that CSV file. Now, what you need to do is you need to figure out, well, how do I actually use this file to bring the data into an accounting technology tool? Let me just tell you, it is super simple. All you need to do is just clean up anything other than the date, the amount, and then the description. And so you can clean up anything other than the date, the amount, and the description. And that's all you need to bring it into QuickBooks Online. The other thing you want to go ahead and keep in mind is many times I get asked, but what about the fact that the amount has actually negative and positive in that? How is the system going to know that the negatives are the expenses or the money out, the positives are the income or other kind of money coming in? For instance, let's say maybe it's some loan proceeds that came in or some other type of refund or money in transaction. Well, let me give you some great news. The accounting technology is smart enough to figure that out. So whether your spreadsheet is in one column with amounts or in 2 columns, which separates the minuses from the pluses, or in other words, the debits from the credits, you can go ahead and identify what type of spreadsheet you're bringing in during the import of the spreadsheet. The last thing you want to keep in mind is what type of file you're bringing in. And so some accounting technology tools allow you to bring in CSV files, some allow you to bring in Excel files, and so you need to keep an eye out for that. So let's go ahead and bring it in. So right now I'm in a blank file. I did that on purpose. There's nothing in this file at all. How do you know that? Well, if you look, I'm on the dashboard right now and everything says zeros and there are no accounts in here. If I clicked on the banking, which is where you go ahead and do the banking for QuickBooks Online, there is nothing in my bank account. And even more importantly, if you click on reports and I try to pull up a profit and loss or a balance sheet for 2019 or 2020, it's 0. So this is true. It's proof that right now I have nothing inside of my account. And now use the example, which is a real life example. I will go ahead and magically do 1 whole year's worth of books in a matter of an hour or maybe a few hours based on how many transactions are coming in. That used to take me weeks, sometimes over a month. Now I can do it all in a matter of hours. So let me show you how I do that. I'm going to click here on banking. And again, I have 2 choices. I can add the account straight from the bank or credit card institution. What that's going to do is that's going to allow me to connect straight to that institution and bring the data in. But if I have to recreate an entire year's worth of accounting, what I'm going to do is I'm going to download the activity from the institution, and then I'm going to go ahead and recreate it in the banking center. The reason why I need to do that for this first time is because many of the bank and credit card institutions give you a time limit on how far back you can bring in the data. And so that's why I'd rather import it straight from a download, because I know that I can download at least 2 to 3 years worth of data from specific bank or credit cards. Now it varies, and you're going to have to do that research on your own in regards to how much data you can bring in from a bank or credit card. If for some reason you can't download the activity because you're going so far back, there's actually tools out there that allow you to turn a PDF into an Excel or a CSV or an importable file into QuickBooks. So you could even go back 5 years or more if you need to, as long as you have the PDF of the bank statement. Okay, super cool ideas that you can do to go ahead and master finances in a much more quicker and efficient way. But let's go ahead and finish this up. We're going to click here on File Upload, and we're going to click on Browse. What I'm doing here is I'm browsing for the correct file. Now remember, before I told you that I got to make sure I have the right file in here. So let me just close this really quickly, and let's take a good look at what this particular accounting technology allows me to bring in. And so this is really important, because what you'll want to do is you want to first see what your bank allows you to download, and then you'll choose the best format to bring it back into QuickBooks. In this case, I was able to get a whole year worth of data in CSV from my bank, and so I chose the CSV format. So I'm going to click on Browse, and I'm going to choose the CSV file. How do I know it's CSV? Because it's type Microsoft Excel, comma, separated value file, which is also considered comma delimited. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on Open. Then I'm going to click on Next. Once I click on Next, what I'm going to do is the magic. Are you guys ready? This is the best part. So magically, that bank file is now getting read by QuickBooks, and it's basically saying, where do you want to put those magical numbers? I want to put them in my checking account. Next. And then it says, well, I see you have 3 columns in that file. So how do you want to go ahead and bring in that information? So I'm going to say, I want to bring in the column that's called dates. I want to go ahead and bring that in this format. The column that's called description, I want to bring it in to the description column. And the column that's called amount, I want to map it to the amount column. So what this is called, it's called mapping. So basically what QuickBooks is doing, it's reading my actual columns that are inside of my CSV file, and it's matching them to the acceptable file columns inside of QuickBooks Online. Lastly, remember I told you that don't worry if it's in 1 column or 2. Here it's asking me, are your amounts in 1 column or are they in 2? In my case, they're in 1 column. And so I can click on Next. And look at this. There it is. All of the information that I want to bring into QuickBooks Online, it's all there. I can bring it in all at once. So an entire year worth of data I can bring in at once. I can just bring in, let's say, 1 month. So let's say I just want to bring in 1 month. I'm just going to bring in January. All the way through January 30th. And then I'm going to click on Next. That's telling me that I'm going to bring in 17 transactions. Okay, not a problem, because I already know that I can bring in the rest afterwards. Then I'm going to click on Yes. And guess what, guys? That's it. It's there. And if I would have brought in 1,700 transactions, it would have come in just as quickly. I didn't have to do anything else other than download that CSV into my computer and then upload it in here. Now I have access to the dates. I have access to the description of those transactions. I have access to a chart of accounts that I either created for myself as a customized chart of accounts, or I'm just going to use the chart of accounts that QuickBooks Online has for me. And I have access to all of the money in the received column, and all of the money out in the spent column, all in a matter of seconds. And that's pretty much how you do it in QuickBooks Online. So what is left? Well, we got to be honest. There is one left, and that is your Excel. So I can't leave them behind. I got to show you. Let me show you what it's like to go ahead and recreate your bookkeeping in Excel. Now remember, when I say Excel, I'm referring to all of the spreadsheet methods. So you can use any spreadsheet method. There's Excel, there's Smart Sheets, there is Google Spreadsheets, there's even Microsoft Online, Excel Online. And so just keep that in mind. We're talking about any spreadsheet method, right? And so what you need to do here is you want to go ahead and start actually filtering the columns, as you can see here, and you want to filter them and create what's called a table, so that way you can easily start categorizing right inside of the spreadsheet method. So for instance, I created a column for the payee, so where is this transaction coming from and from who, whether it's a customer, it would be a money incoming from a customer, or if it's a vendor, it's the money I paid out. I also created a table for the different chart of accounts. So these are the different account names that I have. I also created a table column for the 5 main account types. We know what those are, right? We got assets, liabilities, and equity, and income and expenses. So I created a table for that. And what that allows you to do is, as you go into each one of these line items, you can just quickly drop down and start, let's say, typing in, and the actual account will come in. As long as you have a table inside of a spreadsheet, it's going to allow you to do what's called smart type, which is as you start typing in, it will quickly finish the type. So again, let's say for instance, on this table, I have training. So if I start typing in training, then it's going to go ahead and finish that for me. But again, just keep that in mind. You are doing everything manually here. You're basically having to sort it between money in and money out. You're going to create the tables, and then you're going to have to go line by line and categorize each one of these. When you're done with that, then what you need to do is you need to go ahead and sort by the actual account classification. So separate the income from the expenses. And why do you want to do that? Because you need to transfer those totals into an actual P&L. So here's an example of a P&L that I did, and I did this really quickly. And essentially what you need to do is you need to grab those totals by month, and you need to separate it by month into a yearly spreadsheet. But you first need to create a monthly P&L, so monthly profit and loss with income minus expenses equals your profit or loss. And then at the very end of the spreadsheet, you're going to have a total number, and those total numbers are what are going to eventually live on the Schedule C for your sole proprietorship. So now let me be honest, that's exactly what I will use for my simple self-employed sole proprietorships, because they weren't at a level where they needed the robust accounting of QuickBooks Online. And they also didn't want to pay a month for this. And so it made sense for me to have to do this work, so that way I can recreate their book, so that way I can create a profit and loss in Excel, or in my case, I started doing it in Google Sheets because I use Google Drive for a lot of the collaboration. And then I would essentially use this year-end P&L, and I'd put this onto the Schedule C, and I'd be able to go ahead and finish their tax returns. So this is a legitimate method. What happens is it's so manual, and when you can just pay and actually do it all in an automated machine learning tool, it just made much more sense for myself and for my independent contractors and freelancers and solopreneurs that are basically the one-man or the one-woman show. This just has so much value for them, because it's not only them being ready and being compliant with their finances and taxes. There's a lot more they can do in these softwares than that. And so it just made much more sense to use it.